In Hollywood, love stories can rise and fall faster than the credits roll on a soap opera. But when Brighton James, the quiet, grounded actor millions grew up watching, filed for divorce after barely 7 months of marriage, even longtime fans were stunned. This wasn't some flashy influencer breakup or a publicity stunt. This was a man known for keeping his private life locked away, suddenly making headlines for the one thing he always tried to avoid: his personal heartbreak. Brighton has been in front of cameras since childhood. As Richie Crawford on Family Matters, he was that sweet, curly-haired kid who brought warmth to one of TV's most beloved families. Later, as Devin Hamilton on The Young and the Restless, he grew into a household name, celebrated for his emotional depth and quiet charm. He'd won 2 Daytime Emmys, countless nominations, and built a career most actors can only dream of. But behind all that success, Brighton's personal life had always been the opposite of dramatic: calm, private, and measured. That's why this divorce hit differently. No cheating rumors, no explosive arguments, just a legal filing marked by one cold phrase: irreconcilable differences. According to court documents filed in Los Angeles on October 13, 2025, Brighton's marriage to dancer Jahara James officially came to an end after less than 7 months. They'd tied the knot quietly in March, shared a few glimpses of happiness online, and by June it was over. The paperwork revealed a clean break. No children, no spousal support, no messy public battle. But the quietness of it all raised more questions than it answered. How does a love story that looks so full of admiration fall apart almost overnight? Earlier this year, Brighton posted a heartfelt tribute to Jahara as she performed on Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter tour. "Her journey is what inspiration wants to be when it grows up," he wrote, calling himself lucky to witness her art and love. That post has since been deleted, a tiny digital erasure that spoke volumes. What once looked like devotion now feels like a glimpse into something fleeting, fragile, and perhaps doomed from the start. For fans who followed Brighton since his Family Matters days, this wasn't just another celebrity breakup, it felt personal. Many remembered how he once said on a 2021 podcast that he didn't think he'd ever get married again after his first divorce. So when he finally did, it felt like a story of hope, of second chances. Now that hope seems to have faded almost as fast as it appeared. Was it distance? Was it pressure? Or was this marriage simply a beautiful connection that wasn't built to last? As the headlines fade and fans speculate, one truth stands out. Even the calmest souls in Hollywood can find themselves caught in the chaos of love. And for Brighton James, the man who's lived half his life on television, this may be his most unexpected plot twist yet. On October 13, 2025, a quiet Los Angeles courthouse received a file that no one saw coming. The name on it, Brighton James. The same actor who'd built his reputation on steadiness and humility was suddenly asking the state of California to dissolve his marriage. It wasn't a dramatic public statement, no tearful joint post, no long caption about mutual respect. Just a clean, clinical document citing the coldest words in celebrity law: irreconcilable differences. For someone like Brighton, who has kept his private life sealed tighter than a studio vault, the suddenness was jarring. There were no whispers leading up to it. No hints that anything was wrong. In fact, only months earlier, fans had seen him glowing with pride over his wife, dancer Jahara James, as she toured with Beyoncé. The contrast between that moment and the filing was almost cinematic, the kind of twist daytime dramas would envy. The paperwork revealed even more than the headlines. It listed March 2025 as the wedding date and June as the separation. 3 months of togetherness before the split, followed by silence. No children. No property battle. And perhaps most telling, Brighton requested that the court terminate the ability to award spousal support. To insiders, that detail spoke volumes. This wasn't revenge, it was resolution. He wanted it over, cleanly and privately, with both walking away exactly as they came. The news first broke on TMZ, and within hours, People, Page Six, and soap opera fan accounts had all picked it up. Some fans were sympathetic, others skeptical. Comments flooded social media. He seemed so happy. It's what happened. 7 months? There has to be more to the story. In the digital age, speculation spreads faster than truth, and Brighton's silence only fueled it. What struck many was how measured the filing felt. Most celebrity splits come wrapped in emotion. Long explanations, cryptic posts, maybe even a diss track if musicians are involved. Brighton's move felt almost professional, as if he were playing the role of a man ending a contract rather than a marriage. That calmness made it more intriguing. When someone who rarely seeks attention suddenly makes legal news, people want to know why now? Some observers pointed to the timing. October 2025 marked a heavy filming period for the young and the restless, and Brighton has often spoken about balancing intense work schedules with personal life. Others wondered if fame's constant spotlight had made privacy impossible. Whatever the reason, his action made one thing clear. Something had shifted drastically between spring celebration and autumn silence. By the next morning, gossip outlets had labeled it Hollywood's shortest love story of the year. But beyond the clickbait, there was a sense of sadness. Brighton had always seemed like the grounded one, the rare celebrity who might just make it work. Yet, as court clerks stamped the papers and journalists hit publish, that image quietly cracked. But the real story wasn't just in the filing, it was in everything that led up to it. Because before the paperwork and the headlines, there was a whirlwind romance that looked like a fairy tale, until it wasn't. It all began quietly, so quietly that even devoted fans barely noticed when Brighton James slipped a wedding ring onto his finger in March 2025. There were no magazine spreads, no celebrity-exclusive photo shoots, not even a formal announcement. Just a few whispers, a few blurry Instagram stories, and then suddenly he wasn't single anymore. In a world where celebrity weddings often look like movie premieres, Brighton and Jaheira James did the opposite. They disappeared into privacy. Their story started like something out of a music video. Jaheira wasn't just anyone. She was a professional dancer, known for her work on major tours, including Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter tour. She moved with confidence, power, and purpose. A woman who lived on the road, under the stage lights, surrounded by energy and noise. Brighton, by contrast, was quiet, introspective, and rooted in the world of television drama. The contrast made their connection magnetic, opposites who seemed to fit perfectly, at least for a while. Rumors say they met through mutual friends in the entertainment industry, a casual introduction that turned into long conversations and shared admiration. Jaheira reportedly admired Brighton's calm, his focus, the way he'd survived the chaos of child stardom without losing himself. Brighton admired her creativity, her fire, her ability to light up a stage. Within months, they were inseparable, and when they decided to marry, it felt spontaneous, almost impulsive, but also deeply romantic. When the news finally broke that Brighton was married, fans were shocked, but genuinely happy. After all, this was the man who'd once told a podcast host he didn't think he'd ever marry again after his first divorce. Seeing him take another leap of faith in love felt like redemption. Social media flooded with congratulations, fan edits, and nostalgia posts. Richie from Family Matters finally found his soulmate, one tweet read. But even fairy tales have cracks. Behind the scenes, both of them were juggling demanding careers. Brighton filming long soap opera schedules, Jaheira traveling city to city with a world tour. What looked like excitement from the outside might have been exhaustion behind closed doors. Those who've worked in entertainment know how unforgiving the pace can be. Early flights, late calls, weeks apart, endless pressure to appear fine. And for a newlywed couple, that distance can stretch love thinner than anyone expects. Still, in the spring of 2025, they looked happy. Brighton attended part of the tour, posting glowing words about his wife's talent. Her journey is what inspiration wants to be when it grows up. Fans swooned over his caption. It sounded like a man completely in love. Proud, poetic, sincere. But months later, that very post vanished from his feed. No explanation, just gone. It's a strange thing about celebrity relationships. One minute you're witnessing affection that feels unshakable, and the next it's erased as if it never existed. For Brighton and Jaheira, the whirlwind romance burned fast and bright, like a spark that couldn't survive its own intensity. But what really happened in those 3 short months between I Do and It's Over? That's where the story begins to shift, from passion to pressure. Before the silence, there was nothing but praise. In May 2025, just 2 months after their wedding, Brighton James shared a post that made fans believe he'd finally found forever. It wasn't flashy or attention-seeking, just a picture of Jaheira James on stage, glowing under the lights of Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter tour. The caption, though, said everything. Her journey is what inspiration wants to be when it grows up, Brighton wrote. And I am beyond proud to be a witness to her art as we share this life together. It was poetic, intimate, and raw, a message from a man who sounded completely captivated by his wife. Fans flooded the comments with heart emojis and well wishes. "This is real love," one user wrote. "Finally, a Hollywood couple that feels genuine," said another. It was one of those rare posts where you could feel the sincerity. Not PR polish, just admiration. For a moment, Brighton's life looked picture perfect, but if you check his profile today, that post is gone, vanished, deleted quietly, like it never existed. For fans who had saved screenshots or remembered reading it, the disappearance was eerie. Some wondered if it was part of a social media cleanse, but others felt it signaled something deeper. In the digital age, deleting love posts often speaks louder than words. When Jahara's tour ended that summer, people expected to see the couple reuniting, maybe celebrating, maybe taking a vacation after months apart. But nothing. No joint photos, no stories, no casual glimpses into their newlywed life. For two people who had once seemed so proud of their bond, their absence online was deafening. Behind the scenes, sources claimed the two were living separate lives by early June. Brighton's filming schedule on The Young and the Restless was ramping up. He'd just wrapped a major anniversary storyline. Jahara, meanwhile, had multiple dance contracts lined up, music videos, choreography projects, and rehearsals that stretched late into the night. The same ambition that brought them together might have also pulled them apart. Still, fans refuse to believe things were really over. Soap fans, especially, are loyal. They've watched Brighton's character survive years of heartbreak, betrayal, and redemption. So when the divorce news finally hit, they were blindsided. "This can't be real, and they looked so in love just weeks ago," one fan posted on Reddit. "Did something happen during the tour?" asked another. The internet filled the gaps with theories. Some speculated about long-distance strain. Others suggested they'd rushed into marriage too fast. But there was no public statement. No "we remain friends" note. No closure. Just silence. It's strange how quickly love stories can fade in Hollywood. One minute, your words are trending as the perfect example of devotion. The next, they're erased from your feed, reduced to archived memories. Brighton's deleted post became the digital tombstone of a relationship that once looked unshakable. And yet, what makes it haunting isn't just what was deleted, it's what came before it. Because that post, that single caption, hinted at a man who believed he'd finally escaped the heartbreaks of his past. But history, as it turns out, was about to repeat itself. Every Hollywood love story has two versions, the one fans see and the one that unfolds when the cameras stop rolling. For Brighton James and Jahara James, that divide seemed to widen almost overnight. What began as a love built on creativity and mutual respect reportedly started showing cracks just months after the wedding. According to People's Report, Brighton listed June 2025 as their date of separation, barely 3 months after saying "I do." To the public, nothing seemed off, but insiders whispered that the couple's schedules were pulling them apart faster than they could fix things. Brighton was immersed in his Young and the Restless filming schedule, working long hours on set for one of the most demanding soap storylines of the year. Meanwhile, Jahara was on tour, performing in city after city, living the high-energy, unpredictable life of a dancer. Distance can test any marriage, but in Hollywood, it can break it. They barely saw each other, one source close to the production told TMZ. And when they did, it was all work talk or exhaustion. The spark just faded. Still, what's striking isn't just how quickly it ended, but how quietly it did. There were no arguments spilled onto social media, no cryptic posts, no unfollows, just silence. A clean, almost clinical break. When the divorce papers became public, the details felt unusually restrained. Brighton cited irreconcilable differences, the same phrase that's practically Hollywood code for something personal we're not ready to share. Even more telling, Brighton asked the court to terminate spousal support and restore Jahara's previous name. That move, while legally standard suggested finality, like both sides wanted to close this chapter swiftly and privately. There was no mention of shared property disputes or financial battles, which often drag on in celebrity divorces. It looked like two people who simply wanted to move on, but fans couldn't help reading between the lines. Why would a man who once said he didn't believe he'd marry again, then changed his mind for Jahara, suddenly give up so fast? Was it heartbreak or self-protection? There's also a deeper emotional context here. In a 2021 interview with Maurice Benard's State of Mind podcast, Brighton admitted he'd once thought he was done with marriage. He talked about how hard it was to open up again after past relationships. You think you learn from pain, he said, but sometimes you just build walls. Those words hit differently now. Maybe he'd tried to tear those walls down for Jahera, and maybe it was too soon. The saddest part? No one outside their inner circle may ever know what really happened. And maybe that's exactly how Brighton wants it. In a city where every heartbreak becomes a headline, silence can... For fans who followed Brighton James since his Family Matters days, this isn't the first time they've seen him face heartbreak. Long before the headlines about his brief marriage to Jahera, Brighton had already lived through one very public love story, and a painful ending. Back in 2011, he married Ashley Leisinger, a woman who'd been part of his life for years before fame truly hit. Their relationship was private, but their wedding made news. Not because it was glamorous, but because it felt real. They weren't posing for paparazzi. They were two people trying to build something away from the noise of Hollywood. But by 2014, just 3 years later, that marriage was over. When asked about it years later, Brighton didn't deflect. On Maurice Benard's State of Mind podcast, he spoke candidly about how that experience shaped him, maybe even scarred him. "I didn't think I'd ever get married again," he said quietly, reflecting on the pain of loving deeply and losing it in such a public space. It wasn't bitterness, it was honesty. The kind that comes only from experience. That's why his decision to marry Jahera in March 2025 surprised fans and close friends. It felt like a turning point. After years of keeping his personal life guarded, he had let someone back in. Jahera wasn't just a dancer. She was a woman carving her own artistic path, performing on massive stages like Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter tour. Brighton celebrated her in public posts, writing that her journey is what inspiration wants to be when it grows up. It was poetic, romantic, almost cinematic. And then within months it all disappeared. The post deleted, the silence deafening. Fans noticed the sudden vanishing act online and started speculating, was it just a social media cleanse or a sign of something deeper unraveling behind the scenes? To understand Brighton's heartbreak, you have to look at his pattern. A man whose career has thrived on consistency, but whose love life has been defined by short, intense chapters. He's been acting since he was a child, working in an industry that rarely allows rest or normalcy. Fame, success, constant attention, they sound like rewards, but they often come at the cost of stability. Some say Brighton's greatest strength, his emotional depth as an actor, might also be what makes love so difficult. When you feel everything deeply, every mistake, every misunderstanding, every quiet distance cuts a little sharper. Yet, through it all, Brighton has never spoken ill of his exes. Not Ashley, not Jahera. It's as if he believes heartbreak doesn't need to be broadcast. It just needs to be survived. And that silence has become part of his mystery. Fans can sense the pain between the lines, but he never gives them the full story. It's what keeps them watching, wondering what really lies behind that calm, composed public face. Because in Hollywood, heartbreak isn't just a story. It's a cycle. And Brighton James, it seems, has lived through it twice. When the news of Brighton James's divorce hit the internet on October 13th, 2025, it didn't take long for social media to explode. Within hours, Brighton James' divorce was trending across X, formerly Twitter, Reddit, and even TikTok. Fans of The Young and the Restless, the show that's kept him on TV for over 2 decades, were stunned. How could someone who always seemed so grounded, so private, suddenly become the center of Hollywood gossip? On X, one user wrote, "Brighton James deserved better. Man's been loyal to YR for 20 years and still can't catch a break in love." Another added, "Every time I see Devin Hamilton on screen, I remember he's been through real pain too." Reddit's Ari soap operas and Ari celebrity threads lit up with discussions. Some fans defended him, calling the split just another Hollywood casualty. Others speculated there might have been tension between Brighton's busy filming schedule and Jahera's traveling dance career. No one really knew, but everyone had a theory. Then came the TikToks. Dozens of creators began stitching clips from old Family Matters episodes, overlaying captions like, "From child star to heartbreak king." Others used emotional music and screenshots of his since-deleted posts about Jahera, reading his captions aloud as if narrating a love story that ended too soon. By the evening, even major outlets like TMZ and People had updated their headlines multiple times. The tone shifted from breaking news to emotional fallout. Entertainment Tonight posted a short reel summarizing his journey, from Richie Crawford to Devin Hamilton, and fans flooded the comments with empathy. "He's one of the few actors who's never had a scandal," one wrote. "You can tell he's hurting." But the internet's empathy didn't come without its darker corners. A few gossip pages began circulating unverified rumors about what caused the split. Some claimed irreconcilable differences was code for career conflicts. Others dug through Jahara's old Instagram posts, looking for clues that might reveal more. It was classic online speculation, half curiosity, half chaos. Still, what stood out most was how respectful the majority of fans remained. There was no hate campaign, no viral takedown, just quiet sadness and admiration for how Brighton was handling it. No statements, no interviews, just silence. That silence, ironically, made him even more relatable. In a world where celebrities often turn heartbreak into headlines, Brighton's decision to stay silent felt like strength. Fans started reposting his Emmy acceptance speeches, old interviews, and motivational quotes from his podcast appearances. They weren't just supporting an actor, they were defending a man who'd chosen dignity over drama. It became clear that Brighton James's story wasn't just another Hollywood divorce. It was a mirror of real-life heartbreak, amplified by fame. The internet wasn't mocking him, it was mourning with him. And as the buzz grew louder, fans couldn't help but wonder, if this quiet, steady actor could fall apart behind the scenes, what else about his life had the public never seen? On the surface, Brighton James and Jahara seemed like the perfect couple, talented, grounded, and supportive of each other's dreams. But behind closed doors, things may not have been as picture-perfect as they looked on Instagram. According to reports, their official separation date was listed as June 2025, just 3 months after they got married. That detail alone suggests the cracks had started to show far earlier than anyone realized. People close to the industry know that Brighton's schedule is grueling. The Young and the Restless isn't just a soap opera, it's a daily production machine. Long filming hours, constant scripts, and press obligations can consume nearly every waking moment. Add to that Jahara's life as a professional dancer, traveling for rehearsals, tours, and shows. And it becomes clear that time apart might have been unavoidable. Fans often imagine celebrity relationships filled with luxury and ease, but the truth is often the opposite. When two creative people live in different worlds, one tied to a studio and the other on the road, connection becomes harder to maintain. You start living separate lives under the same name. Rumors began to swirl that by early summer, the two had grown distant. Sources didn't mention fights or betrayal, just an emotional fade, the kind that happens quietly when love is tested by timing. Brighton's social media, once filled with uplifting quotes and glimpses into his personal life, suddenly went dark. The romantic posts disappeared first, then the casual ones stopped too. Fans noticed. Meanwhile, Jahara's public appearances seemed lighter, freer, more focused on her art than her marriage. She posted videos from dance rehearsals and shared moments with friends, but never addressed the missing piece: her husband. It wasn't hostility, just absence. According to court documents, Brighton cited irreconcilable differences as the reason for the split, Hollywood's most common yet most mysterious phrase. But the real meaning is rarely legal. It's emotional. It means something broke, quietly and deeply, with no way to fix it without hurting more. What struck fans most wasn't the divorce itself, but how quickly it came. After all, Brighton had once said he never thought he'd marry again. And when he finally did, it ended almost instantly. To the outside world, it looked like heartbreak on repeat. To him, it might have felt like déjà vu, another reminder that even when love returns, it doesn't always stay. Behind the fame, behind the awards and red carpets, Brighton James is a man who's seen how quickly joy can turn to silence. He's someone who's lived the difference between what the audience sees and what really happens when the lights go off. The quiet storm had passed, but not without leaving scars. And as fans tried to read between the lines, they realized something powerful. Sometimes, the most painful breakups aren't loud. They end in whispers. As the dust settles on Brighton James's short-lived marriage, one question lingers across social media and entertainment newsrooms alike. What's next for the man behind one of soap opera's most beloved characters? After filing for divorce in October 2025, Brighton has stayed silent, but his silence speaks volumes. To those who followed his career for years, this isn't a breakdown. It's a reset. Brighton's always been more than just an actor. Since his days as Richie Crawford on Family Matters, he's proven that fame doesn't have to come with scandal. In a Hollywood world obsessed with shock value, Brighton has built a career based on consistency, talent, and emotional authenticity. That's rare. And maybe that's why this divorce, as heartbreaking as it seems, might actually mark the beginning of something new. Insiders from The Young and the Restless say Brighton has thrown himself back into work, using his craft as therapy. His portrayal of Devin Hamilton has always drawn from deep emotional wells, and fans are noticing that his performances lately carry more weight, more truth. It's as if his personal pain is quietly fueling his art. And in the acting world, that's often where greatness is born, but there's also talk that Brighton may be stepping beyond daytime television. Rumors suggest he's been in talks to produce or even direct upcoming projects centered around diversity in Hollywood storytelling. He's always been passionate about representation, and now that his personal life is clearing space, he might finally have the time and emotional clarity to chase those bigger dreams. As for his fans, they're standing firmly behind him. On TikTok and Reddit, people have turned his story into one of resilience rather than tragedy. The hashtags "You Stay Strong Brighton" and "Real Love Takes Time" trended briefly after the divorce news broke, and countless users began sharing clips from his Emmy speeches, moments where he thanked his cast, his fans, and the people who kept him grounded when life got loud. That line, "When life got loud," feels more relevant now than ever, because while Brighton's personal life may be quiet for now, his career and influence are only growing louder. Fans are already predicting he'll open up about this chapter one day, maybe in another podcast or interview, not to stir drama, but to inspire others who've gone through their own heartbreaks. In a city that feeds on chaos, Brighton James remains calm. He doesn't clap back, he doesn't seek pity, and he doesn't chase headlines. He rebuilds, quietly, patiently, purposefully. Maybe that's why his story resonates so deeply, because behind every polished Hollywood smile, there's a human story unfolding. And in Brighton's case, that story isn't ending. It's just turning the page.